All right. Not really sure what to call this. What's going on here? I guess it's the Orlando Brown Jr. Emergency Reaction Podcast. My name is Jake Luke. I'm joined by Spencer Nathaniel Schultz. And it's an interesting day on Ravens Twitter. The Ravens and the Chiefs getting together to do a little Friday news dump situation on us.
Sneaking it in there on a Friday, as it usually happens. The moratorium is officially lifted. We can talk about Orlando Brown. It has happened. The Ravens receive the 31st overall pick, the 94th overall pick, the 136th overall pick, and then a 2022 fifth rounder, while sending Orlando Brown the 58th pick and a 2022 sixth rounder. So it is quite the haul in return for the Ravens for a one-year rental of Orlando Brown, who will now presumably bend the Chiefs over the barrel, a la Laramie Tunzel, a la Jalen Ramsey. And yeah.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Oh, sorry, that was my soundboard. Okay. Yeah, so you mentioned it there. You got quite the haul. A lot of 2021 picks coming in, even a 2022 fifth rounder. Ravens doing a little bit of a swap situation there for the second round pick, number 58 for 31. There with the Chiefs. So it's interesting. It's I think the main initial reaction that I was seeing on Twitter was that a lot of people will seem to enjoy the return, the compensation that they got, but they do not like the destination of Kansas City and making arguably your biggest rival better, which I probably agree with to an extent, but I think where I'm at with it right now for just my first initial reaction to that is that scared money don't make money.
Yeah, I don't think you can really take that in consideration. You want to be the best football team possible. You're not going to have Orlando Brown. He does not want to play in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson and Ronnie Stanley have been putting up little, cryptic things about, play whatever, some sort of post about I want teammates who will play any position, which I guess isn't even really that cryptic. But at the end of the day, the Ravens get quite a return, essentially moving down from that 58th pick into the third and the fourth round and getting another first rounder. So they have tons of ammo in this draft. Eric DeCosta said that they had 200 draftable players, which to me is very, very high. I don't think I've ever heard that high of a number. It's usually 160, 150, something like that on a given team's board. I think last year they said they had like 170, and they view this as an even deeper class. So they can move up, they can move down, they can, take two quality first round players, hopefully, and get a guy like maybe a Trevon Merrick and maybe, who knows, a Tevin Jenkins or something of the sort. So it provides them incredible mobility. They also have two comp picks incoming next year for Matt Judon and Yannick Ngakoue. One of those might be a third, who knows? And that gives you even more mobility to maybe trade a 2022 third rounder and the 134th pick in this draft and maybe move up into the very top of the third round or try and get back into the second round or something of the sort. So however the board falls for the Ravens, whatever scenarios play out, they are going to have tons of mobility, tons of ammo to go get the guys they want. And that is we were talking in the Slack chat, Vaz says it's a long-term sustainability move. I absolutely agree that it is. And then in terms of the Chiefs, they already added Kyle Long back there. They added a center as well. They probably could have stayed pat and drafted a decent tackle as well. So the Ravens, end up giving the Chiefs Orlando Brown, who I think has become a little bit overrated. I think he's a good tackle, and maybe he becomes even better in Kansas City. But I think he's a good tackle, and the Ravens got a return for a rental that was pretty high. So overall, it's a win-win for both teams. Fans are quite upset. It seems that the Chiefs are getting, the Ravens are helping them. But to that, I say, make your team the best possible. You can't live in fear of other teams. And as you said, scared money don't make money. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. And then I guess we also haven't mentioned that it's pretty much finalized now that Alejandro Villanueva is going to be signing for them per Josina Anderson and that NFL update Shefty Shadow account thing. So yeah, it sounds like they've already got the replacement lined up. You mentioned that Villanueva's best football might be behind him, but not necessarily, he's not the worst option to bring in at this stage, a guy who could maybe even competently fill in there at right tackle with this coaching staff that they have in place and with the other pieces along the offensive line. It doesn't feel like a huge net loss for me. And I think Voss is a little more lukewarm on it, was kind of poo-pooing the whole long-term sustainability aspect of a thing. I get that perspective, but it kind of feels like a hybrid of that to me because this guy was going to be gone anyway. And who knew what suitors you were looking at? You're getting close to the draft anyway. So it's probably good to move him now, get a feel for your needs. And then they acquire all those other picks. And I think he specifically mentioned that he doesn't like losing a primo position, really good player for anything less than a first round pick. And he's kind of ostensibly arguing that they didn't get a first round pick because they had to give up that second. I would argue they ostensibly did because they got the first and then they acquired the third and the fourth. And you could pretty easily package those to move back up into the second round if you feel the need to do so. So I don't know. It doesn't feel like some people are, not totally in on this. I think either for the compensation or for the fact that it's going to Kansas City. I don't really care on both fronts. I like the compensation and I don't care about the Chiefs. Like, do what you need to do to improve.
Right. And there's people are saying on this trade chart, it's the 16th overall pick. And this trade chart, it's the 44th overall pick. And this trade chart, it's the 29th, whatever. This is what happened. Orlando Brown doesn't want to be in Baltimore anymore. He wants to play left tackle. He wants out. They got him out. They got a first round pick. They now have 9 picks. They got lucky with that David Culley pick as well. This would have been a pretty bare-cupboard draft outside of the 27th and the 58th. And now they have 9 picks. They have multiple thirds, multiple fourths. They have 1 fifth and tons of mobility. The Ravens like to draft. They like picks. They like big draft classes. This is a good tackle class as well. They cannot lie. And the other aspect that I like is, Alejandro Villanueva. Alejandro Villanueva is a good pass protector. He is there. I don't think there's a big drop off in his ability to pass protect from Orlando Brown on that right side. He is not a dominant run blocker. I haven't watched a ton of him specifically, but Cole Jackson was giving me a breakdown of him recently, and he basically just doesn't think he drives off of the ball that well. He thinks he's a better kind of zone blocker than a power gap blocker, whatever. But Villanueva is going from a team. We're assuming that they signed him, basically. It sounds like it's pretty much locked up that he will be signed right after the draft. Feels imminent now, especially with this trade. So that all makes sense. But Villanueva is someone that's going to come in, be able to give you a serviceable guy who has experience at left tackle. He can play right tackle. He can even kick inside in a pinch as well. And then you can go draft maybe, a Jackson Carman, a Jalen Mayfield, a Dylan Radins, Tevin Jenkins. There's tons in Stone Forsythe, tons into Spencer Brown. There's tons and tons of viable options in this draft for the Ravens. And when you look at what the Ravens had in Buffalo, offensive line wise, it was Orlando Brown, Bradley Bozeman, Patrick McCarry, a combination of Ben Powers and Tyree Phillips and DJ Fluker on the right side. And now if you're talking about Ronnie Stanley, let's see if the Ravens maybe add a left guard or add a center and kick Bozeman into center or left guard, then Kevin Zeitler and Alejandro Villanueva with a rookie tackle competing as well, and likely better starting 5 with more depth, having a Patrick McCarry coming off the bench, having a Ben Powers coming off of the bench, Ben Bredesen as well in the wings. There's good competition there. There's competition all around the offensive line aside from the left tackle spot, and that is a better offensive line than the Ravens had in Buffalo, plain and simple. So we'll see what happens with Bozeman kicking inside, but the offensive line will be better than it was while Ronnie Stanley was hurt last year, while the Ravens made a run late in the season after COVID, and they also have all of these picks as well. They're going to be able to get some instant playmakers and hopefully able to add 1 or 2 close to blue chip guys maybe. And ultimately, who knows? Maybe Eric DaCosta drops a nuclear bomb and, hits that 50 kill streak nuke button or 25 kill streak nuke button and goes and gets a Devontae Smith or a blue chip caliber player in this draft. Maybe he trades the 2022 first round pick and packages that with the 31st pick. And then you have Devontae Smith and another first round pick, something like that. All of these options are on the table. If someone slides that the Ravens really like, a Kwity Paye, a Jalen Phillips, they can walk out of this draft with another blue chip player at a premium position and 6, 7, 8 more picks. So there's tons of mobility in this draft. I have gone on the record. I don't love this class overall, especially on the back end of it. But if they're able to maybe trade down, trade up, and acquire a couple more early day 2, late day 2 picks, then they're going to have a pretty complete roster with tons of depth. And the Ravens like that depth model while getting better in the immediate future, considering Villanueva and all that good stuff. So there's all the schools of thought. It's too early. You can't judge a trade like this until you see who the picks are and blah, blah, blah. Everybody's got their own 2 cents on it, but Orlando Brown was going out one way.
You can, right? Like you can't, like the.
Yeah, the Laramie Tunsil trade. You knew that.
Like you got good compensation. Like, of course you can judge a pick like that. Like it's the same thing. Like and I'm not the one that came up with this. I think it might have been Trevor Sakema or somebody, maybe one of the PFF guys that tweeted a couple weeks ago. Like, you traded in a car and you got X amount of money for it. Well, you don't know how good that trade in for that car was until you see what you do with the money. It's like, well, no, like you can actually like pretty clearly tell what you got back in return. Of course, there is some what happened with it thing, but it's just a little too cute for me to act like we can't grade this quite yet. We can. It's a B+ for me. That's my grade.
I like it. I think it was my grade is good trade. You got value back from Orlando Brown. You acquired a first and a third and a fourth in exchange for Orlando Brown and a second. So they can do whatever they want.
I think to your original points, like you were mentioning blue chip players, it is not only conceivable, it is like probably going to be pretty easy to walk out of the first round with Rashad Bateman and somebody like Tevin Jenkins. And like if you have to trade up, let's say Bateman drops into the 20s. Like if you got to trade up 5 spots, you don't have to sacrifice the other first for that. You could do like one of these day 3 picks or a day 2 pick next year or something like that. So it just feels like there's a lot more ammo to get a little bit more aggressive, which we've been wanting them to be aggressive all offseason. They didn't really do it in free agency. They were a little more conservative, but they got 2 starting players in free agency, and now they have the ability to get a little more aggressive here with the draft. And you mentioned it being top heavy, like draft 2 guys in round 1 and call it a day. 2 starters. That's what I say.
Yeah, exactly. And like you mentioned, they could trade up 2 spots, 3 spots if they want. And they have a ton of picks next year as well. So it's going to be a good situation in this draft. I'm excited personally now. I'm excited to get back to doing some mock drafts and firing those back up and having this new perspective on it. And you're absolutely right. If someone falls to 23, you have no reason. If whoever the Ravens guy is, whoever the golden goose that falls is, they can very comfortably trade up to get him while not, selling the farm. And they have the opportunity to do that in round 2, in round 3. They're going to be wheeling and dealing. I feel like the Ravens are going to make 2+ trades throughout the course of this draft as well. And when all is said and done, hopefully they're able to walk out with an extremely good draft class. And then again, you have to factor Alejandro Villanueva into this trade as well. You basically go from having a good right tackle to having an average right tackle. So that's not the end of the world. And you've got all these picks. And it would be nice if Orlando Brown, wanted to stay and be a bookend and all that good stuff. But hey, that's not reality. That's not what happened. And I think that Laramie Tunsil trade has clouded what people think of this return as well. In Bill O'Brien, we've said it from the beginning. Bill O'Brien is not a part of this trade. He can't be. He is not on an NFL team right now. Will never have control of another roster in this NFL. If I'm willing to die on that hill. I don't think he'll ever be a general manager again. And so stop looking at Laramie Tunsil, who is an all-pro caliber left tackle, more valuable than Orlando Brown, being traded to someone who is an idiot with player personnel and all of the things that he did to destroy the Texans, and weighing it against that. If you are upset about that second-round pick, it's the bottom of this, it's whatever. It's a 58th pick, whatever. The Ravens have had terrible failures in the second round year after year, and they can get back in there if they want to, as we said. So whatever the possibility is, whoever the player is for Eric DeCosta, whoever the players are for Eric DeCosta and company, they will be able to go get them. They've given themselves all that flexibility, all that mobility, and their line is going to be better than it was when they won their first playoff game.
Ronnie Stanley comes back. Bozeman is going to be there at center or left guard. You're going to have Zeitler at right guard. And, is Villanueva worse than Fluker, do you think? Or Tyree Phillips or any of these other jamokes? Like, I don't know, man. But, he's not quite OBJ, but I think he's probably going to be at least on par or better than those guys.
He will be a substantial upgrade in pass protection to Tyree Phillips or to DJ Fluker at right tackle. Much better. So, yeah, I think you factor Zeitler into that equation. The Ravens' offensive line net is probably better than it was last year with Villanueva, with Zeitler. And I'm assuming they're going to draft probably 2 offensive linemen. A center wouldn't be shocking and a tackle wouldn't be shocking. Maybe they do end up getting a Creed Humphrey or a Dickerson or one of these centers and able to make some noise there. But
what do they have, 9 picks now total?
I think 9 picks, yeah.
Okay. So they talked about 20 over the next 3 years. So they have 9. They had 7. I don't know. It feels right for a trade up. I was tweeting this morning actually. like it feels like it would be conceivably easy for them to trade up with the picks that they had this morning to go and get a Bateman and then maybe trade back in round 2. You could very easily do that again, where you trade up, like I mentioned, to go get a Bateman if he falls into the 20s with that 27th pick. And then let's say you trade back with that 31st pick. Maybe you're at the end of the second round, beginning of the third. It just feels like, I don't know. It feels like they're in a pretty damn good spot. And it does suck to lose them to the Chiefs. But like, I think you mentioned this on like the Ravens and the Chiefs are not rivals right now. Like, am I right on that?
No, they're not rivals. The Chiefs have beaten the Ravens handedly with or without Orlando Brown. And guess what? Maybe the Chiefs, if the Chiefs like Orlando Brown that much, they could have just signed him next offseason. And then the Ravens get a late third round pick in 2023. And it's like, everyone's like, oh, well, they could have gone, not gone to the Chiefs and you get your comp pick. You don't get the comp pick for 2 seats. That's not this draft, but an entire draft after that.
Yeah, so, it's, I think we both have been plenty critical of the approach this offseason, but it's been a sit pat. They got what are probably going to be 2 decent, at least, starters on offense with Watkins and with Zeitler. Now I feel like they got an option or the, ammo to go and get 2 other starters in the draft right now. Like maybe that's a little optimistic of me, but it kind of feels like it's setting up for them to do that if they want to.
And if they bring in Justin Houston as well, someone who can give you similar value to what Yannick Ngakoue did, and get him for cheaper, not factor into the comp equation, get Alejandro Villanueva, you are in a good spot, considering 9 picks, considering depth. And I don't know what they're going to do with all these 9 picks. There is going to be, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Ravens trade maybe a Ben Powers or maybe not Pat McCarry because of his versatility, but they've got a lot of interior offensive linemen. You still have Tyree Phillips, who they like and was switching positions and has a ton of, potential in terms of pulling and some things he was able to do as a run blocker and whatever. So there's going to be some serious competitions. I think that the Ravens are going to have to trade some players at some point. It's pretty hard to find 9 roster spots, and maybe injuries happen. Hopefully not, knock on the old wood. But if they get healthy through camp, there's going to be some difficult decisions and some more trades. And I don't even know. 9 picks is a lot to put into this current roster. So if they're able to take that and make it maybe 7 in the top 150 and move up into the top of the third and move out of that 210 and 184 range and turn those into, 77 or something, whatever, something in the 70s, then you're going to get tons of value. You're going to get tons of picks and guys that can come in and play immediately, as well as having cheap potential impact players for years to come. So they're not all going to hit. Justice Hill, a 4th round guy, has not done a ton. Could he? Sure. Ben Bredesen didn't get an opportunity last year. Tyree Phillips didn't play that well. J.K. Dobbins, I guess, really the only one that gave a real immediate impact. But in this circumstance, they are probably going to be looking for the long-term sustainability that they always preach with Lamar Jackson's extension coming up. I suppose things could be a lot worse in that front in terms of having a high-paid quarterback and now having a bunch of – maybe that's why Eric DeCosta's plan is to have those 20-some picks over the next 3 years, is considering they're going to pay a quarterback imminently, and all of that factors into the equation. But now the Ravens can do whatever they want in this draft, short of maybe drafting a Trevor Lawrence or a Penny Sewell or something like that. So who knows? The sky's the limit. Maybe this is the year they do trade up and go try and get the guy. And I think that'd be nice. I think that would give a lot of Ravens fans some clarity as to all of these moves and all of this mystery and all that good stuff. If there is someone that they want to go get him.
I'm give us too, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. He's insulted. So go get it. Go show everybody what this master plan is, and have wheeling and dealing on draft day, making trades, giving us lots of exciting content. And I love the draft. The draft is my favorite part of the season. So now, if they sit tight or do whatever, round 1 is going to be exciting, because it feels like at any moment they could be trading up, they could be trading back, and watching who is on the board when they pick. So all good things.
Yeah, man, it's going to be fun. It felt like there was maybe, just a lack of juice through pretty much the entire offseason, just kind of a slow burn. And like I mentioned, they added some good guys. They also lost some other guys, and it felt like the draft was going to be crucial, but it also just felt like where was the ammo to go and make a massive move? They were kind of just in that no man's land where they usually are in the end of the rounds, and now they've got some ammo to really do something, and I'm looking forward to it. How do you rank their needs as of right now?
Well, you've got Villanueva coming in. It sounds like that is pretty locked up. I don't know if he's been visiting with anyone else. So tackle, you still want to add one. Edge, you still are going to want to probably draft one. We'll see what happens with Justin Houston. He could be returning to Indy. So it just feels like needs. They absolutely need an edge rusher. They could use a tackle. They need a tackle. They could use a receiver. They could use more safeties. And they need to it would be a nice addition to have a clear-cut center come in or to kick Bozeman inside and go get a high-caliber, mauler at left guard where Bozeman's become kind of a fan favorite, but he's not the type of dude who's driving guys off the ball. He can't really deal with the super explosive athletic three techs that well. He gets picked on at times, and he's gotten better over the years, but he is not, a rock foundational piece of an offensive line. He's a, above average quality player. So being able to maybe put him at center where he's a little bigger than he would be at left guard and had experience at Bama, and then go get David Moore or a Deontay Brown or a Trey Smith or a Jackson Carman or a Jalen Mayfield or one of those guys that has some versatility as well, and plug those in would be quite handy. Wide receiver, edge, versatile, maybe a center, maybe a left guard situation, and adding to that safety room as well. And those are not terrible positions in this draft. The edge class, tons of options. I was watching some Peyton Turner last night, really for the first time for a long time, and there's some options. We've talked about him. Joe Tryon, Peyton Turner, Ojulari, Phillips, Kwity Paye, all those guys. Tackle-wise, tons and tons and tons of options. Tevin Jenkins makes a ton of sense for a man gap power team. That would be a really good fit. He doesn't hit that 34-inch arm threshold, but he's got over 33-inch arms, so he's not, short-armed or anything. So we'll see, man. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think I probably agree with your list there. It feels like there's maybe 3 big positions of need. And like I said, I think they can grab 2 starters. And you're not going to be perfect in almost any given year unless you really want to go all in with free agency. They chose not to do that. But I don't know. I think the sit and wait thing, it definitely frustrated me at times, but it now feels like they're in a good spot to go ahead and maybe fix some of those issues that I was having some problems with. But if you had to guess, I guess we can end on this. Who do you think is the first player that the Ravens pick in this draft? And we're going to do our preview. We're going to get into all this, but just gut feeling right now.
Jalen Phillips or Kwity Paye. I don't know. So whatever edge drops.
I think it's going to be Bateman.
That would be sweet and make a lot of sense, and it feels too obvious.
Yeah, so it's probably not going to happen, but I don't know. Just gut feeling. I was on with the SB Nation NFL show with Stats Guerrera. He asked me, and I don't know. I feel Ron Burgundy just deep within my loins. I'm feeling it. He falls into the 20s. I feel like they can relatively easily move up without sacrificing both first round picks. Make him a Raven. Let's just end this whole conversation.
It feels like to get him, the only obstacle might really be the Titans. Might be the only team where
do they pick?
22.
Who's in front of them?
21. I know that Washington could certainly be an option as well. Well, they got Curtis Samuel. I don't know. They need some other things.
Bears at 20, Colts at 21. Titans are 22. Jets 23, Steelers 24, Jags 25, Browns 26. So Dolphins are always looking for picks. They're at 18. Washington is at 19, like you mentioned. So if that's that first team you're looking at, you're ideally maybe looking up for the Dolphins there. And that's also they're going to be their second first rounder, I think. So there's going to be some options here to move up and grab yourself a playmaker.
Sure. And we've talked about him. We've talked about Terrace Marshall. We've talked about Elijah Moore. There's a bunch of them. But at the end of the day, receiver, it would be really nice if they just get that out of the way. It would be a nice relief for the fan base, it feels like. But I don't know. Adding a receiver in the first round is a luxury right now more than it is a need. We'll see how the cookie crumbles, man. I don't know. It feels like Bateman the media could be higher on Bateman than the NFL. The media
I saw Nate Tice putting out a quote about a player who like just kind of mailed it in this season, and some people thought they were talking about him. Nate Tice kind of saying that he had COVID, so that also confirmed it was kind of about Bateman. So who knows?
He had COVID, he opted out and then opted back in, and he talked about that. I don't think he was in the best shape. He didn't have a full off season. He was ready to opt out and came back in. And also, Minnesota's offense sucked, and he played in the slot and he played fine. He ran slants and caught passes and had production. It's like very overblown to me, but yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked to see Bateman fall to the first round at all. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Peter Schrager seems very confident in his sources that Kadarius Toney is a guy that could maybe go over Devontae Smith. Like, that's, speculation season at its finest. But I mean, I'm starting to get pretty hot on Devontae Smith potentially falling. I don't think there is a high possibility that Waddle and Chase and Smith and Pitts are all going to go in the top, 13, 14. Cardinals.
We always say that it's going to, and then it just doesn't work out that way. Guys always slide,
Especially in a quarterback-heavy class, in a class where a lot of teams need tackles, and there are guys like Darisaw, God forbid Jalen Phillips or Kwity Paye go in the top, 15, or Azeez Ojulari, someone loves, with trade-ups going and whatever happens. I just don't think all four of those guys, 4 pass catchers in the top 15 would be pretty nuts, considering how everyone's been talking about how deep this receiver class is for so long. Even before last year, it was like, well, 2022 or 2021 is going to be even deeper. And last year was a deep class. So that's, supply and demand. And I think teams don't feel the gun to their head to pick a receiver in the first round at the top of the first round. If you're a team like the Cardinals, where you did bring in AJ Green and you do have DeAndre Hopkins and you have Isabella and Christian Kirk and all those guys, and you could maybe go get a De'Ami Brown, or you could go get an Elijah Moore later, or Rondale Moore later in the draft, something like that. So I just don't see it panning out that way, but we'll get into all that a little bit more.
We certainly will in due time. But for right now, farewell, Orlando Brown. Shout out to your family.
So, shout out to his family.
There we go.
So, all right, buddy. You got anything else?
Nope. We'll be cranking it up. I'm going to get into some possibilities and the wide world of mock drafts, I guess, now again. I think I kind of burnt out on those a little bit early. And now that the Ravens have 2 first-round picks, for now, it is going to be a lot of fun. You don't have to pick and choose at that 27 spot. There's usually, the 2-3 guys you're looking at, and now you can get 2 of them. So that's a lot of fun. The Ravens, maybe they sit tight, take 2 players, and are able to get at least one blue chip player out of this draft class that makes a 2021 blue chip impact. Would be an awesome thing. Absolutely.
Well, that is certainly all I've got on the matter. Appreciate you hopping on here with me on short notice. News certainly came out of nowhere on a Friday afternoon, but it was a fun, productive chat, bud. And we've got a lot of juice going into draft week now, which I'm very excited about personally.
Hell yeah, we do. So we'll talk to you guys soon.
Absolutely. If you like what you guys heard, go ahead and follow us on social media. It's at Podcast Beatdown on Twitter. I am at Jake Luke. That is LOUQUE. Spencer is at Ravens for Dummies. That's the number 4. Check out our main account at Be More Beatdown, where we're tweeting out all our articles and pods and whatnot. And follow us on Instagram as well at Baltimore_Beatdown. For all you guys that tuned in on YouTube, thanks for doing so. I hope you enjoyed the live stream. And to everyone listening on the podcast feeds, we're going to have more coming next week in the form of draft content, and shit just got a whole lot more serious. So I hope you guys are ready, and let's have some fun.
See ya.
Arrivederci.